Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Farrell, and I am an adult and seniors programmer at the Brantford Public Library. I will be your host today, and Robin Harding, our adult programming coordinator, will also be attending this session. I would like to thank everyone for joining us for the second webinar of our financial retirement series. Just a few housekeeping details before I introduce our speaker today. All of you attending will be able to view the speaker and host, but will have your audio turned off until the end of the information session. There are two options for asking questions. One is the Q&A feature, and you can type in your question, or you can click on the put up your hand function so you can ask your question verbally, and they're on the menu on the bottom of your screen. Keep in mind the session is being recorded. Our webinar today is called Living Well on Retirement Income, and joining us today is Amanda Martin, a financial educator with the Credit Counselling Society. Amanda has several years of experience and is passionate about building strong community relationships and inspiring others to develop good money management habits. If any of you joined us on our first session, you will have found the information Amanda gave us invaluable. So this is the second of the three sessions. I just want to remind you that the third one is called Death, Taxes, and Beyond, and will be on March 24th at 2 p.m. So please make sure you're registered for the next session. And now I'm pleased to introduce Amanda Martin. Welcome, Amanda.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you all for welcoming me into your spaces this afternoon. Today, we're going to be talking about living well on retirement income. Before we get started, for those of you that didn't join us last time, I do want to give you a little bit of information about the organization that I work for called the Credit Counselling Society, as Chris mentioned. Our motto is we help, we educate, and we give hope. And we do that in a few different ways. We have helped Canadians with their manage their debt, help solve their money issues, and work with them to use credit more responsibly since 1996. We are a nonprofit registered charity, and we help people by providing free and confidential credit and debt counseling. We offer budgeting assistance, information and referral services. We do webinars such as these, different sorts of money management education sessions within our communities and our workplaces. And we also have debt management and repayment programs available for those that are struggling with their debt load. Now, in order to get in contact with us, you can get an appointment to see a credit counselor at our 800 number that you see here on our screen, or you can also do an online chat through one of our websites that you can also see here on our screen. Again, remember, those services are free and confidential for you to use. Also, I wanted to let you all know that I will make these slides available to you after our session. So if you'd like to refer back to them at a later date, you'll have those for reference. And I'm also going to leave you with my email address so that if you do have any questions that pop up after we've already ended our session here today, or that you might not be comfortable asking within the group, please do email me and I'd be happy to respond. Now, we seek consumers from all different walks of life. And as we well know, and you can see from this list, there's several different reasons that people find themselves in financial difficulty or hardship. Now, over the years and through life experiences, I'm sure you can appreciate life happens and these things happen. So in spite of our best laid plans for our finances and our lives, sometimes things don't always go according to plan. Now, I do bring this up because I want to mention that for many people, not managing our money or having difficulty with our finances can be a source of shame or guilt or a negative emotion of some kind. And for that reason, people tend to wait to reach out or perhaps not reach out for help when it comes to their finances. So I bring this to your attention because as you can see from this list, These things that we see people with financial trouble for are things that can happen to anyone at any time from any walk of life. So, should you find yourself in any sort of financial difficulty, whether it be now or in your future, please do reach out for help should you need it. One thing is that when it comes to your finances, the sooner you reach out, the more options you have available to you. Now, without further ado, our agenda for today, we're going to be covering the types of retirement income that you might have, different challenges that you might face going into retirement, some strategies that we can use to manage our finances and debt, as well as some additional resources that you might find handy going into retirement. My hope is that by the end of our time here today, that you'll be able to take a look at your own financial situation and conduct your own financial analysis on your finances, that you'll be able to take action to save some money towards your retirement. And lastly, but certainly not least, you'll be able to have some and list some resources where you can get help or additional information. Now, when it comes to retirement or pre retirement, just in our daily lives, it is really important to know your money and know your numbers. When we talk about our household finances, it has a great deal to do with not only our overall financial situation, but also our monthly and day to day expenses and budgeting. It's important, both now and looking forward towards your retirement, to be able to conduct a financial analysis. So, when we do this, we're able to take all of the pieces that are a part of our financial um, house, so to speak, and get everything together in one basket in one place so that we have the information we need to be able to know if we have what we need to plan for what our expenses are and what they might be in the future. So, when it comes to conducting a financial analysis, we want to include all of your sources of income, whether that be from employment or pensions, annuities, or some other source that you might have. You'll want to have a handle on knowing of what your assets are or what do you own. So that might be equity in your home. That might be investments like registered retirement savings plans or tax-free savings accounts. You also want to have an understanding of what your liabilities are, meaning what are your secured debts? That would include things like your mortgage balance, how much do you owe on your vehicles, or any other secured debts that you might have. Separate from your liabilities, you want to understand and know exactly how much you owe in unsecured debt as well. Unsecured debt, meaning items and credit products like credit cards, personal loans, or unsecured lines of credit. Again, when it comes to our overall financial health, we need to have a good handle on our day to day and month to month expenses. So we need to know the numbers and how much it costs us to live. What are our housing expenses? Not just our mortgage payment or our rent payment, but what does our heating cost? What is our utilities? The other expenses that we incur in our housing, living, and personal lives. It's important when we're conducting a financial analysis or even when we're creating a budget to start with the numbers that are accurate. If we're building a foundation for our financial house so that we have an understanding of what we're going to need and how we can save for those needs, we need to be dealing with accurate numbers. Quite often, as human beings, we can tend to either overestimate or underestimate either our savings or our expenses in some way, shape, or form. So it's important when we're doing this analysis to take the time to set aside and work through your documents and actual figures, not estimates. There are different sources of income that you may have throughout your retirement. These may include registered savings, like RRSPs. These might include tax-free savings, like TFSAs. These could also include pensions or different types of government income, like the Canada Pension Plan or the Old Age Security Benefit. And we'll talk about these types of income in a little bit more detail in the coming slides here. So the Canada Pension Plan is one that provides eligible Canadians with a monthly income benefit upon retirement. The amount that you get is based on how much and how long you have contributed throughout your lifetime. It's based on taxable income. So you're eligible to receive CPP if you've paid into it. The amount that you receive is calculated based on how much you've paid and how long you've been making contributions, as well as your age when you elect to begin receiving the benefit. Your monthly benefits when it comes to CPP are adjusted every January. So that way, if there's an increase in the cost of living as measured by the Consumer Price Index, they would be adjusted at that time. You can apply early for your Canada Pension Plan benefit if there is a severe disability with your health. There also may be additional benefits in the case of disability and or survivor pension payments as well. Again, for details about what you're eligible for and what your benefit may be, can be found on the government website. And I'll make sure to put that in the chat here, and I'll do that right now. Simply and very easy to remember, canada.ca. And if you type in the search what it is that you're looking for to get information about, more specifically, if it's Canada Pension Plan, you type that in and it will bring you to the correct page with the information that you'll need. So another government benefit that you may be eligible to receive would be the Old Age Security. It's also a monthly payment that's available to most people that are 65 years and older. The amount is based on your marital status and your past year's income. It's based on your taxable income, and you usually get enrolled automatically. So basically, if you've lived in Canada for at least 10 years since the age of 18, and you're either a citizen or a legal resident at the time of application, you're eligible to receive the Old Age Security Pension. There are other eligibility scenarios as well. So if this doesn't describe you, you may need to contact Service Canada. Okay, and I'm just going to put Service Canada in here as well in the chat, so you have that as a reference. Which is again that canada.ca. Again, so can type in the search Old Age Security and you'll be able to find information about your scenario. And if you can't find it there, there'll also be numbers that you can reach out to contact a person to talk to you about these benefits. What will happen, as I mentioned, the enrollment into the OAS is usually automatic, which means a letter will come to you from the government the month after you turn 64. You should receive one of two letters. The first letter would inform you that you were selected for automatic enrollment and that you don't need to do anything. And if everything on that letter is accurate and you want to start receiving your OAS pension when you turn 65, then you need to do nothing. Now, please note also, you can choose to defer your payment of OAS up to 5 years, meaning you can start taking your OAS pension at age 70 instead of 65, but you'll need to contact Service Canada in order to set that up. Now, if you don't receive the letter letting you know that you're automatically enrolled in the benefit, you will receive a different letter. This letter would inform you that you could be eligible for the OAS pension, but you will need to apply for it as soon as possible with Service Canada. Now, as we mentioned with the CPP, they make those cost of living adjustments in January. With OAS, the benefits are adjusted quarterly in January, April, July, and October if there are any increases in cost of living. Now, the old age security pension is something that will have what's called a clawback if your net income exceeds a certain annual amount. So if you are someone who is looking to perhaps continue working part-time during your retirement, you may want to keep an eye on how much income you're earning and whether or not that will affect your old age security. I noticed there is a question here in the chat I just would like to read out. Are there advantages to deferral? So that's a good question. What would happen if you deferred is you would likely have the amount that you would be receiving is going to be the same, but your monthly payments would be increased because you are withdrawing them over a shorter period of time by deferring your withdrawal period. Other than that, it would be a very personal decision and would depend on your individual situation and what makes sense for you. I would highly recommend, and we'll talk about this a little bit further a bit later as well, but you reach out to a professional or a certified financial planner in order to discuss what is best for your situation. Now, if you are receiving OAS, you will automatically be adjudicated on your eligibility for the Guaranteed Income Supplement, which is an additional monthly benefit that is added on to low-income OAS recipients. So again, this amount is based on marital status and the past year's income. It's a non-taxable income and it's automatic. You don't have to do anything in order to apply for this benefit. You'll just automatically receive it if you're eligible. And again, if you would like to know if you are eligible or need more information about this supplement, Service Canada is the place to go for that. Again, you can reach them at canada.ca online. Now, as I mentioned, some of us might choose to continue working part-time or consider a semi-retirement when we look at starting our retirement. Now, we may look at increasing our income beyond the government benefits that we might be eligible to receive. So you may want to consider, are there opportunities to supplement your income? Is it semi-retirement or part-time work that you might enjoy, either because you enjoy being out and working and you enjoy the experience, or perhaps out of necessity too, to supplement your income so that you can continue to enjoy a certain experience or way of living? You may want to consider, if possible, having a tenant or a roommate. And I mean, that may be as simple as having any adult children that you already have in your home kicking in something around the house. It says here, a suggestion to have your adult children paying rent, or if they do move back, perhaps consider a situation where there's a rent payment there. I know usually when I talk about this, some people are concerned about the tax implications and whether or not they need to declare these incomes. And yes, of course, if you do charge rent, legally you are required to declare any income that you are receiving. If you'd like to avoid that, I certainly wouldn't suggest anything untoward, but what I would suggest as an alternative is, instead of having the person that you might have residing with you paying rent, you may have them kick in other ways and contribute, perhaps by paying utility bills or groceries, or contributing to the maintenance of the property, as long as they're contributing in some way that lightens the burden for yourself. Now, if you are working outside the home, ensure that you are having taxes deducted from all your sources of income so that you don't end up with a payment to the taxman at the end of the year. And don't forget about the impact of your additional income and what that may have on your old age security payments. And again, you'll need to reach out to Service Canada if you need to have a better understanding of what that threshold might be. In addition to increasing income, another thing that you may need to or wish to consider, so that you may continue to live well into your retirement, is reducing some of your expenses. Now, some of these things will naturally change as you retire, anyhow, but some things may take some consideration. So, what are some of those things that might be impacting your bottom line and your budget? Consider your housing, your transportation. Many people consider downsizing in their retirement. If you've had a raised a family with children, you may have found that your children are now have left the home. If they haven't come back, you may not need as much space as you may have needed in past. You might have the opportunity to buy something or smaller or rent. You may consider that you don't need as much housing if part of your retirement plans include a lot of travel. I mean, COVID pending and pandemic allowing, of course, these days. Transportation. If you have a household that has more than one vehicle, usually because people are working and commuting, in your retirement, are you going to need more than one vehicle? Or do you need a vehicle at all? Will public transportation suffice given your new lifestyle changes? You may also want to consider your health. You may have increased expenses perhaps as we start aging by ways of medications and whatnot, but we may also want to look at things that we can reduce expenses. We may be able to have a reduction in our benefits and our copays because of our senior or our age. We may be able to do things that allow us to maintain our health. We may start and look at things like food that are impacting. I see a comment as if, yeah, we see food may be something that we could reduce. I mean, again, that might be something that we may see increase if we're spending more time at home, but if we're a person that in our working years, we ate out perhaps, or we spent a lot of money on lunches and dining, that might be an expense that will come down. Having the extra time to be able to meal plan and cook may be able to help us to reduce our monthly food budget. Again, utilities. Can we use time of use a little bit better with our time? And when I say time of use, sometimes like our hydro bills, we can use different times of the day in order to decrease our costs. We might have more flexibility to do this when in our retirement. We may want to consider different things that we can do to have reduce the cost of our utilities. Entertainment is another thing that we can look at. What is going to be your sources of entertainment during retirement? Can you plan ahead? Can you think about what these things might be and what those costs will be? And family. Now, many times with families, we have a lot of celebrations that we tend to have throughout our life with our families. We might celebrate birthdays or special occasions or holidays. And as we get into our retirement years and as our budget changes, our habits as to how we celebrate these things and what we do by way of giving gifts and means in that sense may have to change. Remember, in many cases, when we're retiring, we're looking at a reduced income. So we'll have to look at ways that we can reduce expenses where we can. What that means when it comes to celebrating these events is we might have to have some of these perhaps uncomfortable for some, but conversations nonetheless with our family members to help manage those expectations. For example, you might consider having a conversation with your adult children about how your gift giving might be impacted and changed during your retirement as your income has decreased, or as your priorities have changed. Again, you might have family members that are living with you and have been doing so rent-free or without contributing. This might be a conversation that needs to be had about those situations changing. Again, you'll know what situations you'll need to consider in your life, but these are things that you can think about. Now, to really get control of your money when you're on a fixed income, you need to know where your money is going. Tracking your spending will help you identify where you're overspending so that you can make changes to improve other areas. It's human nature for us to estimate and to overestimate perhaps what we're saving and underestimate perhaps what we're spending. Remember that paying off debts will also free up money to go towards other things. So it's a good idea to analyze not only as we talked about our financial and overall situation, but also our spending habits. This might be a root of something that we might need to consider in our retirement as well. Now, when it comes to tracking our spending, there's a few different ways that you can do it. I know it can sound like a really tedious task, but you don't have to do it forever. You can just do it for a few weeks until you get a handle on where you and understanding on where your money is going. You can use an Excel spreadsheet. You can use a pen and paper. You can use here at CCS, we have a tracking booklet that you can get off of our website that's electronic and you can print it out and categorize all of your spending. There's all different ways that you can do it. Again, we have all sorts of tips and tricks on how to do that easily on our website, which is mymoneycoach.ca. Which we'll give to you at the end as well again. But the important thing is not how you do it, it's that you do it. So please do find the way that works best for you. Again, you want to consider your liabilities and debts. Does it make sense to consider perhaps leveraging the equity in your home to get debt-free faster before or at the beginning of your retirement? What else could you be using that money for that your debt payment is going to now? Again, I recommend that you speak with either your financial planner or your bank or financial institution to see what makes sense for you. It's not always the solution to leverage the equity in your home, but it may be one. So it's something to consider and to reach out to the professionals to talk about. Your home may have more value to your retirement if you change it and downsize, especially if you have debts to be addressed. Also, a reverse mortgage may be the right fit, or moving may be a better option. Think about how much of your home you're actually actively using and if there's a better use for you. Can you consider a shared living space? Is it your location that might be a little bit more expensive that you might be able to free up some of your budget with? And consider, are you close to the places that you visit frequently? Perhaps you may not need that vehicle if you're living closer in an area that's in all of the places that you frequent. Maintaining a car that is rarely driven can really add up over the course of a year. Make sure to do an analysis of how much it's costing you to run your vehicle. Does that cost still make sense in your retirement? Do you have another option? Consider your options. Can you use public transportation? Can you have transportation? We have car services now that it's our car sharing services where you have access to a vehicle just when you need it. So you don't have to worry about all those additional expenses of parking or, ongoing parking, sorry, or insurance when you're not using the vehicle. And again, if you do need to keep your vehicle, consider all of the different ways that you can save when it comes to your vehicle. Can you consider perhaps a reliable used vehicle? Be sure to consider options where you might be able to get discounts through your car insurance provider. Can you bundle with your home insurance to get a discount? Do you have a long-standing relationship and loyalty with your insurance provider and a good driving record? As you turn 65 or into your senior years, are they offering any discounts for you? So be sure to ask for those discounts because they won't offer them certainly openly usually. Now, when it comes to our health, there may be some things that are necessary, but there are still some ways that we may be able to save some money on those expenses. Our medications, we may be able to be prescribed, or excuse me, through the pharmacy, we may be able to use generic brands of the medication versus a name brand. Your doctor may have samples that are available to you that you might have access to for free. Ask. The worst they can say is no, but if you don't ask, you won't be able to get. Again, check your eligibility for any provincial prescription programs that might be available if you have any ongoing health issues that require prescriptions. And of course, as always, take preventative measures. Be well, be active, eat well, take care of yourself. There's a question here in the chat. Does everyone get prescription coverage after the age of 65? Thank you for that question. I don't actually have the answer to that. I don't know the current and accurate details of what that public prescription coverage might be. But if you would allow me, I would be happy to find out the answer for you. I'm going to write it down. And when I send out the link to the slides, I will also answer that question for you in that email. Is that okay? I see great there. Thank you so much for your patience with that. And if you give me just a moment, I want to jot down this question so that I can answer it. Okay, thank you so much. Now, when it comes to our food, again, food is necessary. Oh, sorry, I just see another related comment. So I'm just going to pause on the food for one moment so that we make sure that I've addressed everything on the previous slide. It says, I know pharmacies have a sign about government copay, and I've always wondered about what will happen with prescriptions. Yes, I've seen those signs as well. So I will see if I can't get that answer for you, or at least where we can find that answer. Because I want to be sure that I'm providing you with the most accurate and up-to-date information, and I'm not sure that I have that right now. Thank you for your patience. Okay. Again, food. When we're thinking about food, there are ways that we can save on this. We can shop on the discount days. Many markets or stores will have senior discount days that are widely available. Pharmacies, drugstores, the big box stores certainly will. There's all sorts of ways that you can price match and use coupons, both paper and electronically now with your smartphone. Use your freezer, plan ahead. When we have those great seasonal vegetables, you can flash freeze them at the beginning of the season so that you have them throughout the year. And you can do the same with meals. There's certain meals that you can prep ahead of time and plan. When it comes to planning your meals, a little preparation can go a very long way in savings. And a nice side effect to planning your meals is usually that gives you the ability to plan healthier options. Hopefully, in your retirement, you'll have a little bit more time to be able to dedicate to things like meal planning, if that's not something that you've been able to manage while you've been working. Although I joke because my dad does tell me that he doesn't know how he managed to find time to work because he's been so busy in his retirement. um, Now, when it comes to meal planning, it can be pretty daunting for some people. It can be challenging when you're cooking for just one or two people in the house. I encourage you to embrace it and enjoy the fewer voices that you have to listen to and make what it is that you want. Sometimes you can, buy things in advance and then you can cook them ahead for the week ahead for yourself. I know personally, I don't like to do that because I don't like to eat the same thing over and over in one week. But what you could do in another instance is cook a big batch of a meal, perhaps more than for one or two people, and then freeze the meal, and then you have a quick meal for another day as well. It really is sometimes challenging cooking for one or two people. And keep it easy. Pre-cut and pre-wash your veggies. Buy small amounts, just what you need from the bulk food sections. It will be cheaper and there'll be less waste, and hopefully you'll be able to have healthier options as well as a nice side effect to that. Again, I'm going to mention our website just because it's chocked full of amazing information. We do have great tips and tricks on meal planning, as well as different tools that you can use to help with your meal planning experience if this is new for you or a daunting task, excuse me. Utilities, again, another thing that we must have, but we can save money on. Always ask for discount programs or offers when it comes to our utilities. Um, while equal monthly payment plans might not necessarily save on your bottom line, it can make it a lot easier for you to budget your monthly expenses when you know how much those expenses are going to be, especially when you're working with a fixed income. We live in Canada, folks. We have some really cold months of the year and some really unpredictable spikes in our weather, both high and low. So having an equal payment plan can really help us to budget for those months that might be up and down and keep us paying an equal payment every single month. Again, if you own your home, look for renovation discounts that may make your home more energy efficient. From time to time, the government will also offer perhaps income tax incentives for different renovations that you've put into your home as well. Contact your utility companies, see what discounts they have available or what free offers, excuse me, they may have running at a certain time. Again, we may like to save money, but as human beings, we are social creatures as well. So we still like to be entertained on a budget. Um, Community programming is a great way to do that. If anyone's checked out any of your local rec centers or anything from the library, obviously recently we've been closed and we've had some lockdowns, but certainly when we open back up, we have the ability to go out and use those free public services. But even if we do have a lockdown, or we're still in a situation where we can't get out or are vulnerable to the pandemic, I do encourage you to use the online services that these community programs have available. Like the one here today at the library that we're offering you. The libraries have all sorts of great programs available that you can still reach out But I understand, as I was just talking to Chris before the session today, that they are back open this week. So that is exciting for many of us. And again, when it comes to our home entertainment, the internet has allowed for so many more options. You can look at other options besides cable. You can look at streaming services like Netflix or the Disney Plus or Crave TV. These are all low cost options that you can actually share with other people, and you don't even have to be in the same household in order to share those services. So do take advantages of those streaming services and free programs within your community. Now, when it comes to our family and friends and the topic of money, this can be a touchy subject. But as we touched on earlier, it might be conversations that you need to consider having with some of your people in your circle. You may need to consider asking for financial contributions from adult children, grandchildren, or other adults living in your home. You may need to set spending thresholds for gifts going forward. Remember, in your retirement, you're going to need to start putting yourself first. In most cases, for most people, you're going to have a fixed and reduced income. So you need to be able to meet all of your needs first before you can help others. Um, and because I acknowledge that it can be difficult to have these conversations, if you find that this is something that you're really not comfortable with, but you need to do, I really highly recommend reaching out to a professional for help with these conversations. You might see your doctor to recommend a family therapist or an individual counselor to help you through this transition and these conversations. Now, when it comes to living well in your retirement income, ask yourself, are you using credit to supplement your living expenses? Now, whether it's in your retirement or before your retirement, using credit to live off of can indicate financial difficulty. Obviously, if we are borrowing in order to get by this month, next month is going to be that much more difficult when our payments come due and are increased, right? So, the best thing that we can do in our retirement is take care of our debts as much as we can before we retire. Deal with those debts. Some ways that you can do this, again, you'll have to speak with your professionals and consider your family situation and individual values and financial goals to know what debt solution is best for you. However, these are some options that are available and worth consideration. You can consider using the equity in your home, as we briefed on earlier, by downsizing. Perhaps the sale of your property to a smaller property can give you the increase in your retirement income that you need. You could look into a reverse mortgage. A reverse mortgage is one where you are advanced the equity in your property and you don't have to make any payments on that mortgage until either you die or you sell your property. And at that time, what you owe is taken out of the estate or the proceeds of the sale. For more information on a reverse mortgage and if that's the right thing for you, you can certainly speak to your financial institution, your bank, your credit union, or a mortgage broker about those options. You might want to consider creating a plan to tackle your debts one at a time. Perhaps consider starting either with the highest interest debt first, or if you like to see quick results in order to keep yourself motivated, perhaps you start focusing on the smallest balance first. Now, keep in mind when I say focus on one debt at a time, that still means that you're making minimum payments on all your debts. You're just focusing any additional money that you have available on one debt at a time. And in order to, if you're dealing with your debt and trying to reduce your debt load before retirement, put away those credit cards and don't use them unless you absolutely have to. And credit is neither good nor bad. Using credit can be a help or it can be a hindrance depending on how you use it. I'm going to give you an example here. Let's say I need to use, I have an emergency. I have a hole in my roof. It's winter, it's cold outside. I need to get it fixed. But guess what? I don't have an emergency fund set aside. So I need to use my credit card for the $3,000 roof repair. My credit card is 19.9%. And I know that I can afford the minimum monthly payment. So I feel like it's a good idea to use this card since it's my only option. Now, the minimum monthly payment on a credit card is usually about 2% of the total overall balance. I'd like you all to guess, if you could, how long you think it would take me to pay back that $3,000 if I just make the minimum monthly payment every month until it's paid off and not use that card again for anything else. How long do you think it would take to pay off? Feel free to put your guess in the chat or speak out loud. Decades, Robin says. Yes, you're pretty on point there. 14 years, another guess. Thank you for the guesses. It's a long time at the end of the day, right? But unbelievably, but truthfully, 52 years and 7 months. And in addition to that $3,000 in that 52 years, you're also going to pay back an additional $12,709 in interest for a total investment of over $15,000. Now, I don't know, I'm pretty optimistic, but I don't even know if I'm going to be alive in 52 years from now. So there's a better way to do it. I'm going to look at the same scenario. I still have the hole in my roof. I still don't have any savings. So I'm still going to use my credit card, the 19.9%. However, I'm really uncomfortable with the amount of time it's going to take me to pay off and the amount of interest it's going to cost. So I looked at my monthly budget and I realized I could free up some more money and put an additional $40 a month onto that credit card. So for a total payment of $100 a month instead of $60. How long, do you think it would take me to pay off that debt now by paying $100 a month instead of 60? It'll be less than the 52 years, obviously. How much less? 24 years. We have a guess there in the chat. I feel like I need a drum roll for this. 3.5 years. And in addition to the $3,000, I will pay back some interest, but instead of $12,000, it'll be only $1,184 in interest for a total investment of $4,184. So the big takeaway here is, again, credit is neither good nor bad. It's how we use it that can be a helpful or a hindrance. So keeping in mind, whenever you're using credit, if at all possible, whenever possible, always put down more than the minimum payment. That will reduce the amount of time that you're paying on your debt and the amount of money that you're paying back. And as you can see from this example, the difference is huge. And it just has to be a small amount to make a big difference. Now, we talked about several times along the way here about reaching out to a professional for help. We've talked about a lot of different things that you might want to consider. And a financial advisor can help you manage your income sources in the best way that can help to reduce your tax impact and also maintain a steady income over the long term of your entire retirement. So when it comes to professionals, you may want to reach out to a financial advisor. That might be a certified financial planner or a CFP. You may want to reach out to an employment center locally for some of their free services. You may have some community groups, counselors, or legal aid that might be able to also help you. In addition, CARP is a great resource and advocate for seniors. It is a membership organization, but provides great benefits and also discounts. CARP stands for Canadian Association for Retired Persons. And if you just type in CARP in your Google, in your online search, it will bring it up right away. There are a lot of resources out there to help you to be more social and to help you through challenging times and to help you just in about any way you could imagine. And much of it is free. Reach out to those community networking groups. Your library, again, is a great resource for these social interactions. And of course, there's provincial and federal resources out there available as well. Now, before we wrap up for the day, I'm going to leave you with some final points and also open up for any additional questions that you might have that might come up for you as we've spoken about these topics today. But I'm hoping that you might help me out by filling out a quick survey just to help me to understand how I've done here for you today and how the information was presented and received. And again, what else you'd like to hear about. We like to know what it is that you're interested in so that we can provide that information to the libraries and programs in your community so that they can provide those services to you. You can access the survey through through your smartphone by putting it up to the QR code that you see on the screen, or you can type in the link that's on the screen here or in the chat into your browser. It will just take a moment. My name is Amanda Martin, in case it asks, and the topic today from the drop-down menu is living well on retirement income. And again, if you don't have time to fill that out, we will send that out electronically to you in an email afterwards. Some final points before wrapping up and leaving it open for questions. It's important to outline your retirement priorities. Really consider what it is that you want your retirement to look like for you, and set specific financial goals to help you move towards them. Think about managing your money over the long term. Your decisions now and how you manage your money, finances, and debt load can help you or hinder you going into your retirement. So, really look at long term plans to manage your money and your debt load. And please do seek professional help and assistance to make sure you're on track with where you want to be and to get help and advice on ways to get there if you're not where you want to be. So with that, I would love to thank you for allowing me into your space today and open up the floor to all of you for any questions that you might have for me on this topic.
Thank you, Amanda. We'll open for questions. You have two choices. You can put your question in the chat, or you can click on the raise hand feature and we can unmute you if you want to speak verbally to Amanda.
I just wanted to mention, sorry, I just got a note on my computer that came up that said my internet connection was unstable. So I hope there's no disconnect here, but if something happens, that's what it is. There's a question here in the chat. At what age can you start getting CPP? Now our CPP, I'm just going to bring back our CPP slides for you. CPP is eligible at the age of 64, I believe. Let me just double check my notes here. Bear with me. 65, my apologies, because you can always defer it for, look at deferral as well. So the age is 65. However, you can also, okay, that being said, let me back up for a moment. So you are eligible to start receiving your CPP at age 65. But if you apply, there may be certain circumstances where you could be eligible to receive it as early as age 60. And again, remember, you have the option to defer it to as late as age 70.
While we're waiting to see if there are any more there's another question. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. How do you find out how much CPP you paid into and how much you are eligible for? Very good question. I would refer you to Service Canada. If you go to canada.ca, you will be able to get all of the resources that you will need to find out that information. There may be a number or a link for you to go to that will be able to assist you with that as well if you have further and additional questions beyond what you're able to find. And I do keep referring back to that canada.ca page, not as a deferral of not wanting to answer your question, but simply because that is where the most up-to-date and accurate information from the government is posted.
Just wanted to remind everyone about our third and final session, which will be on March 24th at 2 p.m. with Amanda. And it is on death, taxes, and beyond. So if you haven't registered, please register. Does anyone have any more questions?
Again, I will send Chris, I will send you obviously the links for this session, as well as I will find out the answer to the question about the prescription coverage in that email as well, if you wouldn't mind forwarding on to the participants, and then they'll have the answer to all the questions and resources as well. And I'm just going to type my email address in the chat here in case anyone has any additional questions afterwards.
Okay. I would just like to thank Amanda for her presentation, a lot of good information. And I would like to thank everyone for participating in our webinar today and hope to see you the next one. I think if that's all, then we'll say goodbye till next time. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you all. Have a great day.